All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. I'm happy and honored to be here today with my dear friend, Jonathan MacCaul. Jonathan is an embodiment and intimacy mentor and guide for men and couples, and an all-around amazing guy. So, Jonathan, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Jordan. So happy to be here, brother. Yeah, it's always a pleasure coming together with you. I love our conversations and always curious to see where they go.
Yeah, yeah, me too, brother. Yeah, should be fun. Maybe let's start with a bit of your story. I'm curious if you were to give the listeners, a bit of background around the journey you've been on and where it's brought you to currently, what would you share with them?
Hmm. Wow. So to keep it, I guess to give a little insight, like to go right even back to my upbringing. I was born into a military family, and the parents who raised my two parents who raised me were actually both special force soldiers, and so I had a very unique upbringing. I was very much connected to my warrior at a very young age, and put into martial arts. I started martial arts when I was like 12, 13, and I'm really grateful for this because what I've now discovered over the last basically like 8 years, or at least have a better understanding of it, is I was born in this world as an empath, and I realized if it wasn't for my parents and be able to connect with my warrior at such a young age, I can see how life might have crushed me as an empath. I have much more awareness of this since my um, journeys and spend time in Costa Rica. So basically, up to my mid 20s, I was very aggressive. I was competing martial arts. I was doing a lot of drank and smoked, just a lot of things to numb, distract myself from feeling so much because I just really, yeah, I didn't really have any awareness of how to manage these emotions, so the feelings and the emotions of the people and place around me. So anyway, that all when I basically this all led me to like going to Afghanistan. Like I went to Afghanistan as a civil contractor, and really when I came back from that, I was really called to go to India, and this was in 2012. And I already had started my healing journey at this point. I should mention it's like I went back to school for fitness and health in 2008, and that was really the beginning of my journey, like a healing journey. I was really called to start reversing all the damage, the wear and tear I'd done in my body through aggressive training, mixed martial arts. I fought professionally in Japan, and that really did a toll on my body. So I was really called to take effort to heal that. And when I did, I was really starting to peel back some of those layers of armor I essentially built up. And it allowed me to, and it was around that time in my life where I actually started to have some like significant relationships with women that like where I was actually able to, well, I was having like, I had a significant relationship with, my first one really was 25. And that all led me to, like I said, India. And then really in 2012, I just really fell into basically holistic wellness, and I was teaching yoga. I was personal training. I started my own business doing in-home personal training, and I was teaching martial arts. And I was really just peeling back the layers and not having any language for spirituality at all, even at this point. Like even awareness was just something I was really called to do. And um, yeah, it eventually led me to Costa Rica. It eventually led me to selling everything I had and letting go of my business and moving full time to Costa Rica at the end of 2017. And that's where I really went all in on my healing and spiritual awakening. And it was in Costa Rica where I actually met my wife, Sasha. And and that just even further catalyzed my expansion, and really a lot of my gifts really came online. And it's funny enough, shortly after you came into my life, yeah, and we and I remember you receiving and having a pretty powerful session. I know you wanted to talk about that because it was around that time where really things started to open up for me because I peeled back so many layers of conditioning, like like layers upon layers in a really like hard and fast way. Like I really understand now that most people probably would have fried their nervous systems the amount of the releases I had because it was just I was tenacious. Like I was in the perfect environment to do that work. And um And it was just like when I reflect back now, that whole 5 years living full time in Costa Rica was kind of like a 5 year like ayahuasca journey in terms of how much I stretched myself. And it's literally taking now like 3 years after leaving Costa Rica in 2022, we married, where I actually feel myself stabilizing in a way that in a really this the way that I haven't really felt in the last 3 years. And mind you, like as soon as like in 2022 when Sasha and I got married, we literally like we got married and then which was like the climax of our whole experience in Costa Rica. It was absolutely beautiful in terms of just the community. We had all our family around us and then a month later we left. We left our spiritual bubble in the South Pacific coast of Costa Rica to re-enter into society, where we then embarked on like a basically a 2.5 year journey of traveling around 6 different places, facilitating retreats and transformational events together, spend time with family and hold a lot of space for family, for each other, and for our clients, and building an online business and learning what it means to really be an online entrepreneur. And then we finally found ourselves here in Vancouver Island, and it feels really clear this is where we're meant to put down roots. And having those roots down has really allowed that time for us to, like we said, kind of process and digest our experience and really better understand why we've had this crazy and epic and beautiful journey. But it's been a lot of change, like a whole lot of death and rebirth and changes and transitions over these last 3 years, really 8 years, and for myself, even like really the last 15 years. And it's only like now that we're like it's starting to come putting the pieces together and really seeing my role, and really excited to just be back in society and be able to bring this awareness and these to men and the couples I'm here to serve.
Wow, yeah, that's an amazing journey you've been on, brother. It's interesting that we have these parallels in our paths that we both lived in Asia and we both traveled a lot and life has taken us in to many strange places. I don't know if I knew that you fought professionally in Japan. What was that like? That sounds really fascinating. I love Japan.
Yeah, yeah. Japan was my first like initiation away from home. Well, outside of the country. Like really, I was 20, 24, and I went to teach English in Japan. And within a few months of being there, I was able to find a group of Brazilians and a Canadian named Eddie, who was a professional Muay Thai kickboxer. He happened to be Portuguese, so he could speak Portuguese, which is good because I didn't speak Portuguese. And I was literally training full time while also teaching full time as a like basically a well-paid babysitter like, for teaching. Even though I had my TESOL certificate, I was basically just working with kids, which was a beautiful balance when I think back to it. Like I was because I was training full time um, and so I was fully immersed in like two different cultures there in Japan and then Brazilian, and I was training with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but also Muay Thai with Eddie, and then also MMA. And I managed to have my first mixed martial arts fight, professional mixed martial fight in Shinjuku, Japan, in in 2000. What I can't even think what year that was. Yeah, it was like nearly 20. It was 23 years ago. Yeah,
That was your first professional fight, and it was in
yeah,
Japan. What
yeah.
what did you feel going into that? Were you nervous? Did you win the
Honestly,
fight? What happened in
it won by decision. I was so excited for it, man, because I'd been training for that. Like if I was already like trained mixed martial arts before going to Japan, so I probably would have been on that path one way or another. But it's a lot easier to get actually a pro fight in Japan, and it was amazing, man. I was so overly ready for it because I was training so hard. It was really a way for me. I was using it to cope. It was actually Japan was really interesting because that was probably the most, when I think back, the most like desensitized I was. Like I was the most like hyper masculine. I was really just like thank God I had like the teaching English as kids, because otherwise I was drinking a lot. There was a lot of homesickness, and I was really masochistic. I was getting up, I was going for a workout run, going teaching English, like, and then going right after that, going training, and then get home and basically nurse myself in the time when I wasn't like, and then the weekends I would be drinking, like, and Yeah, it was a really interesting time. It was a really amazing experience. I'm so grateful for it. And then I said when I got back from Japan, it was like that's when I went returned to school for fitness and health promotion. And I already gone to school college once for horticulture. And yeah, that was my first discipline of high school. But fitness and health really gave me the tools to really properly put my like heal myself. And I'm always about like, if I want to lead a healthy, uh, I want to be strong and healthy till the day I die until I choose to pass away. And so therefore it was made sense for me to put myself in that, environment where I would, be teaching others in that, right? So I always make sure that I'd stay healthy and strong. And plus that I love training that, and I was always exposed to like really cutting edge training techniques and that through my parents because they were special forces. So I always had this little edge because I was always exposed to these new methodologies and ways of being training that. So anyway, and then that led me to right after that I went to Afghanistan, which gave me this other like really like super mass like crazy environment. I mean, like what an experience that was. Like a year, I was 6 months in Afghanistan, and literally, man, this is like ratio of one woman to 100 men. And it was like, like all I did was ate, I slept, I trained martial arts, and I worked. I was a driver. I was actually, which is kind of a random thing. I was driving tractor trailers and coach buses, and which is kind of funny about this is that was the first thing I did after the first time I left college because after for horticulture, I went and got my class A because I was going to go out west and become, go in the oil rigs. My friend was like, if you want to save some dignity, go get your class A so you don't have to be a green roughneck. And then I did that. I went out west, but I couldn't get a job because I was like 20 years old with no experience driving tractor trailer. So I'd been green roughneck out there for 6 months, and I was like, enough of that. So I went back to Ontario and actually got a job driving for Hudson Bay Company. And for for a whole year, I was nocturnal driving tractor trailer from Sunday to Thursday at nights, short haul from Ottawa, Montreal, and all along 401 to Toronto, and then back home every night. And then when Friday and Saturday, I was a maitre d' and I ran security at this upscale bar in the downward and byward market in Ottawa, which was crazy too because I was making more money in those 2 days than I was driving. But anyway, I was literally nocturnal for a year, and I was working full time, and it was even though that the 2 days a week were like kind of my social life, it was still a lot, and that definitely took its toll on me as well. And yeah, and that was before, and then shortly after that, I ended up going to Japan. So I just it gave me a little backstory. Like I found myself in these work situations and experiences where they were very like very hyper masculine environments, very rough, like really harsh environments, and it really gave me. It's just interesting contrast, especially to considering what I do now, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a lot of great foundation to have. I mean, the martial arts and the experience in such a diverse array of experiences you've had, and to know how to defend yourself and handle yourself in those types of environments is just a great asset in life, and I think a great foundation for many things in the future. And what years were you in Japan? Just to compare to
Actually,
something.
actually years is like two. Oh gosh. Okay. So you want to do the math on this one? I'm 43 now, and I was 24. So
Okay, so that was like 19 years ago, so that'd be like 2007. It's crazy, it's 2026 now.
it blows my mind, man. The time.
Interesting, because I was curious because I actually at age 22 was in South Korea teaching English, but that would have been 2013, 2014. So I guess I would have been in that neck of the woods a few years after you, but that's an interesting parallel in our path too, that we both taught English in Asia specifically. I was there for 1 year, and yeah, like you said, then I met you in Costa Rica. Yeah, I specifically remember, well, that was a crazy retreat. I mean, the context when I met you during one of the craziest periods of my life. I mean, possibly the one of the very hardest week or two periods of my life because without going into too many details, it was an ayahuasca retreat, and I had been romantically involved with the shaman for a few months, and I was gonna go to her ayahuasca retreat, and then she like ended things between us right before the retreat in Costa Rica, shattered my heart, and I still went to the retreat, and she served me tall cups of Peruvian thick ayahuasca 4 nights in a row, and I'm setting an intention to somehow let her go, and I just want to like I'm madly in love with this woman. I just want to like run off to India or wherever and go live with her. But instead I'm like setting the intention to somehow let her go. And then I just had rough ceremonies. Like especially the second ceremony, I just remember I felt this like boiling rage start coming up in my belly shortly after I drank this stuff. And then I saw this like Venus flytrap looking like hyperdimensional Venus flytrap come and just like swallow me. And I just got like ejected into this wormhole of strangeness for hours. And I was just like sobbing and vomiting for hours. It was super deep purge. And then I finally like got shot out the other side of that and had one of the craziest breakthroughs of my life, which was almost like a 5-MeO DMT. I had never worked with 5-MeO with Bufo at that point, but it was kind of like a precursor to that because it was just a full uh, opening dissolution into pure, just blinding white light, like just total unity of white light, love, bliss, power type of thing. So it was yeah, an astonishing experience. But that whole retreat, anyway, all of that's kind of context to say that I went through this insane roller coaster with some of the highest highs and some of the lowest lows on that retreat and in that kind of 2 week period. And at some point on the retreat, the shaman told me, oh, you absolutely have to get a massage from this guy who's here. He gives like these unbelievable trauma release massages and he has his own technique and like you really need to experience what this guy has to offer because someday he's going to be famous for this technique and like yeah, she was speaking super highly of you. So I was like, okay, well I better try that out. And so we ended up having two of these sessions kind of after the ayahuasca retreat, like shortly after, immediately after. And both sessions, like I think back, I don't know exactly. Yeah, obviously, the ayahuasca, I think, played a role in potentiating the whole thing. Everything that had just happened, the breakup, the shattering, the ayahuasca, I was in an extremely raw and open place already and had already experienced a huge purge. So that's an important contextual factor. But I think also whatever you did, which I'm going to ask you about in a moment, like what you even do in sessions like that, because I remember you kind of doing some massaging and having me get in certain yoga positions and kind of pushing down on certain pressure points. And then it was like something just opened up. And I had in both those sessions two of the most massive, unexplainable releases, karmic purges of my life where, I mean, to go into a bit more detail, it was just like my voice changed. I felt like my normal current incarnational personality was barely even there, like off to the side, and my voice changed to like an old man voice. I felt like my body became a battleground for ancient forces, and I was like shouting things like you shall not pass and something like almost like frothing at the mouth, like spitting and like shaking. It was a borderline exorcism type experience or something like that. I mean, that was a deliverance or something. So years later, I'm still wondering like what even was that? Like, how do you make sense of experiences like that? And what do you do when you hold a space like that? So yeah, that's that's something I wanted to ask you about.
Thank you for sharing this, and I'm so happy to hear you speak of this because it was a very powerful experience. And I say one thing, like it also the environment. I will say that that retreat center, like I love to offer my service there because anyone who's receiving from me there, first off, they're fully ready to receive, right? They wouldn't be at that retreat center if they weren't truly ready to like fully like let go of what no longer serves them and really, yeah, just surrender, right? And of course, when you're working with the medicines and everything else, like all those channels are open within you, right? So you were just primed, brother. And I remember, I do remember like it had me like I was borderline like in terms of like if let's just say this, if it wasn't for the fact that earlier that year, or maybe like the year before, wait, was that in 2009? It was in 2009. Yeah.
2019.
2000, sorry, 2019. Yeah.
Yeah.
2019. So like, it wasn't for the year before when I really started to like have my releases where like to this day I have yet to witness anyone have a release like myself, right? So that is what has allowed me. Let's just say that like in that year before, leading all up to that, like I had gone so deep within myself and had already purged and witnessed these huge releases of energy within myself that I had a better understanding. I was able to hold space for you because if I hadn't had that, that it was taking me on edge. Like it really was because of the amount of energy and the amount of release and just it was yeah, it was I remember it being like being grateful and thank God for being prepared for that, to be able to hold space for that, because that's really what allows me to be able to hold that kind of space. Is I've met myself so deeply that there's no judgment. I'm able to keep my center and just keep that compassion space and just allow myself to be guided in that process, right? So yeah, so my the work I do is like I've done enough. I've worked with bodies enough through like martial arts or 30 years of martial arts, but also like personal since I started push training, I was always very hands-on in terms of like knowing how to like stretch and I understand the body. I've done a tremendous amount of anatomy work. And then I did, like a lot of Thai massage certification. So but when I met you, I had all basically got to this point where I was, and then of course, Sistema. I will say this Sistema, which is the ancient Russian martial art that I have been practicing teaching now for over a decade. This really has helped me have this sensitivity, but because of all my awareness and the knowledge that it's allowed me just to like get on my own way in these sessions and basically just follow the energy. And basically my gifts is to liberate energy. Like I'm able to easily find the energy and will liberate. And at this point, it's not about the stories and all the rest of it. Like, it's like it doesn't matter. It's just stuck energy. And in those sessions, we're able to liberate it to the degree that you feel safe enough to do so. And my ability to create that safe, sacred space for people is what allows them to just really unwind. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's fascinating. I would say you have some kind of very, very deep gift for that. I mean, yeah, I would definitely. Oh, how often do you find yourself doing work like that these days? Do you find yourself doing stuff like that?
Not often, brother. I don't really advertise it. I just, people occasionally find me and it's like, and I offer it then, but it is my deepest work. But in terms of what I can do with someone in one session, it is definitely a gift and I'm really grateful for it. At the same time, what I love to do is I love teaching others how to do it. And, since 2018, I have also been like teaching, like doing like, I've done many different body cultivation, like massage workshops, teaching people my methodology, how to essentially give and receive massage. And in the last couple of years, I've focused more on couples where Sasha and I, my wife Sasha and I, we actually teach couples how to use this, very, very much the same my methodology that I've been developing since 2018. Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. I mean, yeah, I just really wonder what's happening in a session like that. I mean, I feel like I was having visions of past lives. I felt like I was experiencing other like lives or incarnations of myself. I feel like I was I said like I think I was shouting at times and having all these types of purge things and it was like a lot coming from the belly area. There was a lot. I remember kept pressing down kind of the belly area and like guiding stuff kept coming up. I was just like pulling my own hands, became really involved in kind of pulling the energy up and out. Like, what do you think all that energy is? Do you see us as many lifetime incarnational beings who've accumulated a lot of stuck karma or something across a lot of lives, or how do you see that?
I do. That's a good question. It's interesting. I see it as just stuck energy. It's like it's anytime, and obviously, like yeah, we can say past lives, but a lot of time, like those same circumstances that will create those same traumas will come up in the lifetime in this lifetime. So like it's interesting. It's different, many layers. It's the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual bodies, and it's just these imprints that get stuck there from times when we just didn't feel safe, when there's been trauma, and it's just stuck energy. And like I said, I was like, I know a lot of people, a lot of healers, and that or yeah, they can go into the story, and I'm just like, I just realized that my gifts is really just to like I just blast through that, and I'm able to do so through my awareness of the energy lines in the body, and really just how to entrain individuals into deep states of relaxation. So like for the most part, when I work with someone, I'm guiding through the breath the whole time, and I create this rhythm, and we go deeper and into that relaxation. And like I said, it's through that continuously reminding too that they're safe. It just like they just naturally begin to relax. And as a result, these stuck energies begin just to unwind. And in that space, that space that we co-create, there's the opportunity for a release of those traumas, the unwinding of those stuck energies. Yeah.
And did you say, do you feel like there's things from different lifetimes, or you just don't, you choose not to apply too much of a story or interpretation on that?
I I do believe, I mean, I've had past life regressions, and I've had, like I've done like like higher self and oversoul readings and things like that. And I do I've had those experiences where I very much have seen that, like, very much like seen those past energies or stories, where you want to call it. And I do believe that. Just like what I realize is like it's just not getting too caught up in the story. It's just it like I said, it's just there's just stuck energies that we accumulate. Most like man, truth be told, like yeah, I do believe there's a carry forward. I do, because when the releases I had, there's no like I have a hard time believing that I accumulated that much repressed emotion. But then again, I was born an empath in a family that didn't know have any idea, like there was no exposure to any sort of spirituality, religion, or anything like that. It was like I was watching the most violent movies from since I was a kid, because my parents were military. They're like they were already desensitized to this violence, and that I was watching UFC since it started, like, and that all, that all really, it's a very highly sensitive kid. I mean, I imagine that did storm me, and luckily it didn't manifest as some sort of disease, because I imagine because I had so many outlets with my martial arts and just aggressive training and just riding bike and swimming, and my time in nature, because nature's always been an ally for me, and I always be deeply connected to nature as a way to kind of cleanse and nourish myself. But ultimately, it's like I had a hard time believing what I experienced, which I will share a bit of this. Like for me, this was like when this came through as a result of being in the right space with the right space holder, and it was initiated using in both times a medicine, like a psychoactive substance. But essentially, what came through immediately was like like primal screaming, coupled with the deepest cry and with the gooeyest tears. And this, I cycled through this like I don't know how many times, where I actually had to end up having to stop myself because I could feel my space holder coming off their center, because they were like concerned for me, because I was such an immense amount of energy being pouring out of me. And I was and that was the first time. The second time I had that experience, I said the right space, right place, with the same space holder who, and once again, I mean, there was a lot to this. I was a full on like ceremony for myself, ritual. Which was completely self guided, but I know it was like some sort of astrological event, and I actually started off working with him doing bodywork. So that put me into a trance. And I could feel it started to bubble up. And I basically just got myself on my mats and just like, and then started to once again scream, like primal screaming, smash my mats, being water, like sweat pouring on myself, like so fast where it was me like in a puddle and like it going back and forth between screaming, yelling, crying deeply, and meanwhile like witnessing myself doing this. And once again, I got to a point where I could like I was kept reassuring my space holder, like, it's okay, brother, relax. I'm okay. Like it was kind of crazy, but I eventually I stopped myself again because I felt like I could have kept going, but I stopped myself. And it's like I feel my brother and my space are like coming, getting a little concerned. Not just that, but like concerned like the people around us going to like be concerned too, because even though we're in the middle of the jungle, there's still, there are people in the vicinity. So it was, but after that experience, I mean that especially that one, where there was a lot, it felt like a big one of the biggest purge I've had to date. I mean, I felt like 10 years younger after that. I mean, I looked 10 years younger after that. I mean, like you can, Sasha remember, like can remember this and this, like that was, and both times that happened, like say in a very, one of the most powerful places I've been, that was like, which was the home farm. And I found this is another one of these kind of vortexes because for many reasons, but a retreat center that we met is also one of these really like powerful places. Like it had a people go there for change and transformation healing, right? So because that's the energy in that space, and you're like we're nestled in prime jungle, like it's powerful. And it's just really you have the full support of the land and the jungle to really to help really liberate those energies. Yeah, and so because of those experiences, when I had those experiences, my abilities really came online. Like I really opened myself up in a big way, and that's when like my I started to really embrace my gifts as an empath and as an intuitive, and, and as a healer. Really, even though I don't like the label healer, I because like I said, I really love to empower people with the tools to heal themselves, right? I can do this work and people are really called to work with me. I still offer it, but for the most part, I really love teaching people how to connect with their own inner resources and how to connect with their own innate healing abilities. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing all that. Yeah, that's really, really fascinating. I'm deeply fascinated by these types of huge purge experiences and just wondering how much we're all carrying and what the world would be like if more people had a space to have that type of release. Because we were not taught how to do this. We don't have spaces in most of society where that is understood or able to even take place, you know? So it's like, what are people doing with all this energy? It's just it's just stuck.
Oh, I'm convinced that every man, likely woman, has a good primal scream or two in them because of all the repressed energy. And I'll tell you right now, like I grew up with a heavy bag in my basement. Like I grew up like with like I had nature. I would run, bike, and swim. I've been since I was a kid. When I go underwater, I would let out primal screams because I knew it was safe for me to do so. Like I've been learning, naturally learned how to discharge my whole life because I had to, because like I said, I understand now, and I've only had this understanding really in the last like 5 years, or at least honoring of myself as an empath, as someone who is deeply, like really deeply sensitive to the people in place, the feelings, the emotions, the energies of the people in place around me. Like, gosh, man, like if I didn't have, and even with all that awareness, I was still up to like, you know, up to 2017, well, 2016, drinking and smoking like every day for the most part. Like, as a holistic wellness professional, yet still using like and very functional and serving so many people, yet still like, like numbing and distracting, numbing myself, essentially turning down the volume so I wouldn't feel so much. Yeah. So luckily now I'm like I'm more empowered with awareness of like what that means, and the tools to keep myself clear which has been even more important because that's been a real initiation in my life up to this point. Has been leaving Costa Rica as a wide open empath, peeled back after peeling back all the layers of conditioning, which was essentially body armor in a lot of ways, and then reintegrating back in society, and where I'm swimming in the ocean of unprocessed emotion and swimming in a sea of suffering of the people and places around me, and not like, oh, like, wow, that's like, this is where I like more connect to my warrior than I ever have, because my God, man, it's like it takes a lot of courage and a lot of empowerment to remain open, and when there is so much pain around, you know.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath on that one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I think Ram Dass has some kind of talk about learning to keep your heart open in hell or something like that. And yeah, I mean, this realm, whatever this earth realm is, it seems to be able to contain a huge spectrum from very, very hellish experiences of suffering to incredibly heavenly experiences of bliss and liberation, love and grace. So fascinating to be here. One
yeah,
thing that one yeah, that we could go deeper into that topic, but one thing you mentioned kind of guiding people to learn how to do this stuff for themselves. I was going to share that one thing I've realized over time, and I think your work helped me realize this too, because you often tell people to like rub their hands together and like put them on their body somewhere, for example. I actually haven't been, I should probably rub my hands together more often. I haven't been doing that too often, but what I did realize over time was just that the hands seem to be very powerful kind of vectors of healing or energy that you can use on yourself. And so, I'm very often, I think the medicines guided me into this understanding too, but I'm just very often putting hands on these different chakra points, like putting my hands on my crown or my third eye, my throat, especially my heart, my solar plexus, my sacral, and, really anywhere on my body that feels like it's, especially those chakra points feel very powerful for some reason. And I feel like when you put the hands on those points and you just kind of breathe into them, that is already a really good practice for starting to bring up or clear or open whatever is there. And I was curious if you were to give people one or two more further tips or tools on how to work with that themselves, what would you say?
yeah, yeah. Thanks for bringing this forward, Jordan. This is such important. Like, it's like the most important sentence you'll ever you hear. People and we all know it, but we don't really like. It's something to meditate on and continuously remind yourself. Where your attention goes, energy flows. It's really that simple. Where energy flows, where energy flows, it's naturally going to, like a river, help to liberate any stagnation, right? So when we place our hands on any part of our body, and breathe in through that place, and imagine breathing into that place, like it's bringing more energy into that place. It's going to actually bring more blood flow into that place, and therefore it's going to bring more oxygen, more nutrients. It's going to help to remove the bio waste from those areas, but ultimately it's bringing more energy in that area, and as a result it naturally begins to like dissolve any stuck energies and tensions, and it's really that simple. I mean, it's really it's that simple, like it's just like it's just helping us to really it's choosing to fully feel. Once we are able to like place our hands on our body and we start to be really present with what is like what emotions are stuck there, because that's often the case. It's just stuck emotions because we didn't feel safe to express them, or they were repressed, so they get stuck in the body. Remember, energies in motion, emotions. So when we place our hands and we breathe into these areas, it provides us an opportunity to really feel what's alive there, and once we feel it, then we can heal it. And it's that simple. It's just that people generally, especially men, just don't feel safe to really feel these emotions, or they just don't have a language for it. Like they don't it's scary. They don't understand it. It's scary because they never taught. Like what I'm realizing, like what I've realized is like men, like as men, we've been given only a few crayons from the whole, where women have had, like, the girls have been, the full 64 crayon colors, men the full spectrum, all the human emotions. Men have only had like a handful of different emotions to play with, and it's like it's time to become, more emotionally intelligent, and that requires us to be in our bodies. Like when I place my hand on my heart and naturally, and really breathe into this area and naturally, make that difficult journey from the head to the heart, and really the more time we can get spent in our bodies, the more we naturally begin to heal. We do. It's just like the more we find our unique source connection, with nature, with source energy, the more we invite that into our lives, the more that assists us in liberating those stuck energies.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, brother, and bringing in the breath. Yeah, breathing into those spaces is also huge for me. I also work with sound a lot, just intuitively humming and oming and kind of feeling the sound traveling right down into those different points. And also like often kind of naturally visualize or see visions of different colors of light that I'm kind of calling down. Feels almost like higher dimensional energy or light that's golden or white light or something and that feels powerful to kind of call down this more purified or rarefied or heavenly energy and just like bathe the whole system in that energy, just kind of washing everything clean with this liquid life, whatever those energies are. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like it's I work like so I bring this into every session I do as well, right? It's like we're working with the sound, but also with visualizing white and like light and whatever color you want to work with. Every color obviously has a certain energy to it, but it's like really um it's really working with the elements. It's understanding like the elements of like the air, fire, water, and earth. These are the elements that make up the life force energy of Earth, like the energy that animates all life, right? So the more we work with the elements to naturally cleanse and nourish our physical and energetic bodies, the more we also begin to heal. Yeah, it's so we've given a lot of tips and clues here for in this session. I'm really happy to do that because it's really it's not difficult, like it's so funny. Humans inherently distrust simplicity, right? You go like, oh, it can't be that easy. It can't be that. Well, it actually is if you actually just are consistent with it. If you actually apply it daily, these very simple practices. You can just remember where attention goes, energy flows. Like tuning your body. Like where are you holding tension in your body? And just spend time, place your hands in those areas and just breathe and or move through different ranges of motion to help you to like liberate that tension. I mean, this is where as you do that, you free your body of tension, energy, blood flow. I mean, it all flows freely, and there's no disease. There is no illness or disease. That only happens from when there's stagnation. Like and that stagnation happens when we are continuously when we're not moving our bodies to the full range, or we're continuously contractions, like movements of fear. Anytime we like contract or hold our breath, these are we're storing energy. We're like yeah, we're accumulating tension, and the more tension we accumulate, the less flow there is, the less flow of blood, nutrients, oxygen, or energy. The more stagnation, more death, decay in the body, and therefore disease will set in.
Do you recommend when one's placing one's hands on different parts of the body, do you recommend trying to like push in more deeply like a person would if they were massaging you? Like I
Hmm.
feel like I remember you pushing down kind of into my belly and stuff like that. Like should a person try to do that to themselves or not?
And once I believe that once you develop a relationship with your body, you learn to actually be in tune with your body, then yeah, you can naturally explore and play. But what I've come to realize over the years, it's taken me a long time to get to this point, is like often less is more. You don't need to be aggressive. Like in fact, it's the body respond. The soft tissues actually respond better to gentleness. And it's like yeah, it's more important. Like more anything else is people just need to learn how to relax. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Is like people just need to know how to relax, not have to not rely so heavily on like substances, things outside themselves to do so, right? Like, and when you learn truly how to relax, then you naturally learn how to liberate. Like these tensions naturally begin to liberate. And as long as you can learn how to hold space for yourself, be a compassionate witness or the non-judgmental observer, which does take time. And that's where meditation comes into play, right? Like continuously creating that mental discipline, like, to be truly present in your body. And that's where the breath comes in, right? The moment we take a conscious breath, we're fully in the here now, right? That's why our business, my business is called Spiritus Way. It's a spiritus. Spiritus means breathing. Essentially, it's like the breathing way, and understanding that spirituality is essentially the art of breathing. Like, and the more you learn, you really work with the breath, the more you naturally return to wholeness and naturally heal. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, beautifully said. As I've gone deeper with the breath, it's just, I mean, it's unbelievable. Something that we all do all the time, that we just do naturally. We don't usually think about it, but you start to go into conscious breathing and really trying to feel that breath in your whole body, like you're taking these whole body breaths and you're rippling the breath through the whole body, and then you find where it's blocked in some way or it's not able to go
Mm-hmm.
down as far. And I feel like I still have a long way to go on that journey. It's a very humbling journey because it's just like, yeah, it's very deep journey. Do you feel like there's an end point of that journey, or does it like is it
not not living here on planet Earth. I mean, if I was still living in the jungle in the South Pacific coast of Costa Rica, far from the craziness, like and all that advertisements and the just the everything else, like yeah, maybe, but like uh real like if when you're living in society and that like, there's a continuous cleansing. Like you got to continuously clear because we're all you're in this collective field, and it just takes a lot of work, man. Like you got to be like I got to be to remain open and um like it's it's like it's really become masterful in working with the elements, working with the breath, movement, and maintain your alignment and just maintain that strong source connection, right? Which is unique to each person. And that's it, it really, yeah. Otherwise, it's easy to, um, you know, forget. It's easy to forget who we really are and want to play victim in that because and all the rest of it. It's like it really does. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, the more you open yourself up, the more you are opening up to yourself for the full spectrum of the human experience, and that's really what we're here for. Like I say, when Sasha and I were living in Costa Rica, like we realize now we were totally in what people would call 5D. Like it was pretty much living in heaven and earth. We were like there was no pain, no conflict, no drama. It was just bliss, man. It was just bliss, and it was beautiful because it allowed us to really do so much deep healing, and especially being so immersed in nature, where you're just naturally in the frequency of like harmony and equilibrium and balance and this you naturally like that's the real medicine of Costa Rica, man. Just the nature, just getting people there. Let nature does the rest. I mean, you can there's of course where I was living there was kind of a mecca. Like everyone was a as a healer, a shaman, a witch, a wizard, or facilitator of some sort. Like it was incredible the amount of like talent and just the people that place were attracting. And of course, it really felt like the whole time I was in Costa Rica, I felt like it was magic, man. Like it was magic in the sense that it was just synchronicities all the time. I feel like it was me, continuously me, like soul family, soul tribe. Like it's like divine appointment. We're all just showing up to help each other remember who we are and why we're here. And it was just amazing. And I also understand why we had to leave, like and that was no easy thing. That took a lot of courage, for us to leave our safe, cozy spiritual bubble, and re-enter into society. And the last 3 years, he said, have been probably one of those challenging years of my life. At the same time, it's like, oh, I'm so happy to be back, man. I'm so happy back and really being back and really be able to be of service the way I know I'm meant to serve, which is essentially empowering men and and couples, like to really reclaim their power and rise as embodied leaders. Yeah.
And why did you have to leave Costa Rica to do that?
Yeah. Well, this is interesting. I shared with you the astrocartography. That's not why I had to leave, but that was when I came together with Sasha, when we actually we moved in together. It was like I was like, okay, well, it's not just me anymore, right? So I was like, okay, I know what I need to do, and and the energy wasn't there. It was such a struggle for me to build in my outer world, and I was doing it, but it was a struggle, man. I felt like I was crawling uphill, and I was like, just very much asked the universe, like, what the, like, what is happening here? Why am I struggling? Because prior to that, like, life was so easy, like in terms of like, my healing was like, it was the easiest thing. I was always just in the right place, the right time. I was always being guided to like the right astrological moments, the right healer, like medicine ceremony. Like it was just like, I felt so supported. And when it came to building my business online and being more of a role of a provider for my wife and like I was struggling. And so I asked the universe what's going on. And shortly after I found out about astrocartography, and I found out I had Pluto and Saturn running in conjunction directly over top of Costa Rica. And anyone who knows anything about astrocartography or astrology basically would have totally affirmed my whole experience there in terms of like what I did there, which was a continuous death and rebirth. Like Pluto is all about like the like transformation, change, like the subconscious, like the death and rebirth. And Saturn is like like discipline through hardship. It's like the long slow road, but also just like it's like the stern master. But anyway, it was really difficult. I just like, as much as I loved it, it was like I felt like I had to leave. And I quite honestly, if I didn't leave, I imagine Costa Rica would spit me out, as I witnessed from so many people that go there. Like you really, like, if you're not meant to be there, you quickly get spit out of Costa Rica. Like I see most people, they come there and they're there for 3 to 6 months, and then they either run out of money or they get sick and they gotta leave. And I wasn't, I was more just, I just knew I had to leave. And it wasn't, that wasn't the case for Sasha. She didn't have any issues there. And it was crazy because we literally got married, and on June 21st, 2022, we had this beautiful, incredible New Earth wedding with all our tribe and our family there. And all our family were like, why are you leaving? Like, why would you want to leave? Our family, like, why are you leaving? It's like, I was like, I had to, because I knew there's much more for me to, there was still like, yeah, I couldn't fully step in my purpose there. I could have been continue to be Peter Pan, Peter Panning, and just like, just like blissing out and cacao ceremonies and dancing and just playing in nature and waterfalls all day, which didn't sound all that bad. Trust me, we've a few times we're always like plan B, like go back to Costa Rica, and it doesn't sound all that bad. Same time, I really do want to. I'm here to build and live a legacy of love. I know I'm here to steward large amounts of money, both Sasha and I mean, it's actually in our Gene Keys profile. We're meant to be leaders here and really birth the new human. And that's really all the work we've done, all the ways we've cleared ourselves, and we continue to do so. It's there to really best prepare ourselves for parenthood and for the children that we're going to bring into this world. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful, brother. You also mentioned at some point, and yes, just so many blessings to your future children and to your family. And you also mentioned discovering who we really are at a couple of points, and I'm curious, who are we? What would you say? Who are we on the deepest level? What does it mean to you to discover who we really are?
It's just truly acknowledging and honoring the truth that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. It's like, I mean, that it's like, stop pretending that we're not powerful beings, in these meat suits. It's like I really feel that that is the deepest, like the deepest healing we can do is just remembering that our source connection, which is unique to what I've realized is unique to each one of us, right? It's each for each. It's like it's our responsibility to find each one of us to find our establish our own unique source connection. And with that, it's just that continues remembering that connection. You know, I am not my body. I'm not my mind. I'm not my thoughts. Not my emotions. You know, it's just like because once we can truly acknowledge that we're all energy, and then you start to learn and educate and remember, but like the universal laws of energy, we allows and how to work with the elements of creation, fire, the water, the air, spirit, working spirit. This is when we become conscious creators, and that's when life really gets fun. That's when really life gets interesting. Like we really are able to take full responsibility for our lives and not play the victim card. Because And that's why it's so important for us to remember, because when you truly remember life's not happening to me, life's happening for me to grow, evolve, then you can't play the victim card. Then you start to become an active participant in the game of life. And like I said, the more empowered we become, the more fun it becomes. Like that's yeah. The better it gets, the better it gets. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks for sharing that, brother. And
Thank you, brother.
yeah, I feel like where I'm currently at is maybe a more inclusive space where I feel like I am my body, for example, on one level. I'm not saying I'm limited to only being my body, but I would include the body as, as
Mhm.
part of what I am or an expression of what I am. You know what I mean?
I do, Brian. And let me be clear here. I'm not about transcending the body. I'm very much about being fully in body. Like I'm an embodiment guide. I help others get into their body, that be fully embodied. And this is why the breath is the focus of everything I do, because I said, when we take a conscious breath and we're truly here in the present moment in our bodies. And that's what I've come to realize is like, especially for the men I'm working with, it's like this is the biggest challenge for them. They're stuck in their head. They're stuck in the past, or they're in the future. They're not fully present. So it's like, how do we get them into their bodies to fully enjoy their human experience? And I'm all about enjoying the full spectrum of the human experience. And everything I do is just there to continue to accumulate this large repertoire of different vibrational frequencies, so I can just fully enjoy my human experience. Yeah, as embodied, as an embodied man. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. And I was also curious, we touched on this a little earlier in the conversation, but do you have intuitions about what happens when we die, when we leave, when this body dies and we leave this world? Do you have any intuitions that you feel like sharing about that?
I have a strong sense that it's just become the light, and you just return to that, to the source. Yeah. I think I like to believe that I had that choice in this next life, which is funny. I'm just expressing this, like whether I would love to, create a space of love here on this planet. Like I really like have a land and a home and like a space of love. And this is like referring reference to Anastasia Ring series. If you don't know that, I highly encourage you, and those who are listening, that that whole series is probably the closest picture of like what we're stepping to as a collective. And Anastasia talks about the space of love, and she speaks of like, when family is truly acknowledged and honored and celebrated, and you have these space of love where so much energy and your energy is poured into, that there is an opportunity to come back and to incarnate as like as your basically like in your family line. And like I I like jeez, I never thought I'd be expressing this, and this is kind of like, because it is kind of out there, but I really do believe like I have that choice. Like I either return to the light. I've done my part here on Earth, or I get to choose to have another round. And if I once I have that established, that space of love, like I want to be able to come back as my kids or something. I don't know, who knows, man, but like to be able to have I think we're moving into a really beautiful time on this planet. We really are in the time of the great change. And I really believe that our current level of imagination and consciousness cannot truly fathom what we are stepping into as a collective, what we're moving into. And that excites me. That excites me. That makes me really want to continue to take, like really immaculate care of my body temple and really be able to live a long, 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 healthy life to, long past my hundreds and, choose to pass, to pass away from this planet when I choose to. And I really believe that, yeah, that's where we're moving to as a collective, to have that level of consciousness. We're like, we pass when we choose to. We say, okay, I've had enough. And I imagine, yeah, I'd like to come back for another round here on planet Earth and Nova Gaia. Yeah.
Come back for another round. And what was the last word you said
Oh,
there?
on Nova Gaia, Gaia Nova.
Gaia Nova. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I mean, well, for one, you made me think of this book, LSD and the Mind of the Universe. Have you ever heard of that book?
I
It's
think I saw you refer to it recently in your
Yeah,
channel.
man, that book resonates with a lot of what you're describing about us being on the precipice of some kind of massive transformation. This guy, this professor, very humbly documented 70 high dose LSD journeys that he had over decades. He meticulously documented them, and they're some of the most astonishing reports of mystical experiences that I've ever encountered. That book is really a treasure trove if anybody wants to dive into just like such a rich map of existence. But that book strongly affirms what you're saying about us being on the precipice of a massive transformation into a new form of humanity. It also strongly affirms the idea of reincarnation based on his experiences. And I'm personally with a lot of this stuff. I'll be quick to say that I don't know. I don't know what the future holds here on Earth. It seems like Earth could go in different directions. I've also, though, had very strong, visions, of course, of new Earth and new possibilities and, elevating to bringing heaven to Earth, let's say. And I've also had many experiences, like I shared earlier here, of um, past life visions or visions of other realms, other possibilities, things that strongly made me feel like life continues after death in some form or another. And of course, there's all those accounts of kids who remember past lives and people who have near-death experiences who see a lot of wild things. I mean, there's also a lot of people who have near-death experiences and don't remember anything as well, that it's just kind of blank. So that's the other side of the coin there. But I think with the, yeah, available evidence, and the evidence of my own experience, I'd say my intuition is also that there's continuity after this life. Like things continue, and I don't know how it all works with, reincarnation or going to heavenly spaces and things like that. But yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious to see what's in store and or not. I guess there's a chance that it's just it's just there is
I,
no continuity, but I like to just be open and accepting of whatever happens and yeah, but I have a good feeling about it personally, so
me too, brother. Yeah, I certainly don't fear it. I know that from my life, from the experience I have had, I certainly don't fear death. It's just another. Excuse my language. I've died so many times on this planet. I mean, in this lifetime already. Like, it's just change, man. It's just change, transformation, just from one state to another. And yeah, however it unfolds, I remain optimistic. Yeah.
yeah, beautifully said. I yeah, feel similarly that especially man with some of the bufo experiences I had, those really felt
Mm.
like dying. Um, Felt like the whole universe died and just dissolved into complete totality of light. I mean, maybe there was the smallest speck of Jordan still there, but yeah, I mean it was I don't know, just so far beyond, just so far beyond. So if you if you were to leave our listeners with any final wisdom, brother, do you have any final lesson or takeaway from life or message that you'd like to share with people to bring to the world?
No, I yeah, what's come through is just remembering on our healing journey, just in every moment in life, just remember focusing on the breath and trusting in the intelligence of your body, focusing on the breath and trusting in the intelligence of life to guide you. Just to have that presence to really be able to hear and see and really feel is it's really what we're here to do. So just yeah, it's just continue to develop that relationship with the breath and just to continue to stay in body will allow you to stay resilient and adaptable to change, which is pretty much the name of the game here on planet Earth at this time of the great change. You know, so so it comes down to resiliency. I really believe that it's in our ability to really connect with our breath and our bodies is what allows us to self-regulate and remain resilient, adaptable, to be able to quickly come back to baseline, come back to our center in each moment is the skill set that every one of us on this planet right now is being called to learn and become masterful at. You know, to be able to truly control, maintain a high state, elevated state of being, so we don't get pulled into all the suffering that is inevitably going to be being purged from the collective right now, right? So like I'm here to encourage everyone to really yeah be an embodied leader, you know, in this time of the great change, and that really begins with presence, really with learning how to self-regulate your body, and that always comes back to learning how to breathe, which is the most important thing we do, and first thing we do when we enter this planet, this life, and last thing we do, and yet nobody really teaches. You know, we're not taught this. So there's one thing I really want to distill in the audience here is like learn how to breathe consciously, intentionally, and deeply.
Hmm. Beautiful, brother. Thank you for that message. Yeah, it feels very important. And
Hmm.
where can people find your work if they'd like to dive deeper with you?
Yeah, yeah. You can find my wife and I have Spiritus Way, and we're focusing on couples work right now. We have a beautiful program called Root to Rise, really helping empowered couples, especially entrepreneurial couples, like power couples. You know, to create this structure and rituals for connection, so that they can build a legacy of love together, and to really move away from conventional sex to sacred sexuality. And that's a whole nother topping podcast I'd love to have with you at some point, because it's a big part of the work we're here to do together. I really feel it's a big one, but like Sasha and I really are here to help restore innocence and purity back to sexuality. Um, and my own work, I'm really working with men. The last 5 years, been focused on working with men and really helping them rise as embodied leaders. And you can catch me on Instagram, Jonathan.MacCaul. And also like my offerings are for my mentorships and my group programs for men. You can find on spiritusway.com. Yeah.
Beautiful, brother. Well, be sure to link to those as well in the description. And thank you so much again for your time, brother. It's been a beautiful, illuminating conversation. So, as always, thank you so much and take good care.
Brother. Sending you lots of love, brother. And thank you so much for the service and all that you do, all the ways you bring so much creativity and joy into this world. Yeah. I really appreciate you, brother. I love you.
Thank you, brother. Same to you. I love you too, and thank you for all that you do and share. Mm,
Mm.
thank you.